Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of From Sad Pygmy Girl to Alchemist. Today, I am so excited to have Gia with us. She is the creator of the Ready to Mingle app, and I will let her talk a little bit more on that. And it's in perfect timing because earlier today, I posted something that got a lot of controversial comments regarding me being anti-dating apps. And I will say her approach is a little different than or much different rather than your conventional dating apps. So with that, Gia, I will let you take the wheel.
Amazing. Well, thanks so much for having me. Excited to
Yeah.
be here, and I couldn't agree more. My own experience with dating apps was what led me to create Ready to Mingle. So, Ready to Mingle is an in real life connection app for dating, friendship, networking, and building community. It helps people discover and meet others who are open to connecting in real time through a signal called the Ready Light. So, I had been navigating modern dating for the first time in many years, and like so many people, experienced the frustration of endless swiping, messaging, ghosting, matches that never lead anywhere, investing so much time and energy into dates where there was no chemistry in person. Um, and I had been recruited into a couple of matchmaking services as well. And people just weren't approaching me in everyday life. So, I got really burned out of feeling like, something wasn't working and hearing the same thing from my friends, and just decided that rather than complaining about it, it was time to do something about it and build something different.
Amazing. And can you explain a little bit of how it works? Because I really think it's so interesting, especially now where a lot of people are afraid to approach others. And I get this comment a lot from men specifically. Men are terrified of approaching women. Fear of rejection is one of them. And I think that's inevitable, right? That's kind of just putting ourselves out there. We're going to face rejection, men and women alike. But that's one of the big ones, I think. And just coming off as a creep. Men are
Yeah.
terrified of that. We see things that
Yeah.
I had a men's dating coach on a few weeks ago, and he was just saying there's this huge stigma against men reaching out or not reaching out, but approaching women specifically at gyms and things like that. So,
Yes.
yeah.
It's funny because the gym topic is one that just keeps coming up.
Yeah,
I was
it's a big
talking
one.
to a guy today, and it's like, he's like, sometimes I think about it, but I've been told never to approach women at the gym. So I just like, put my head down. And I think everybody has different opinions on whether or not they would like to be approached at the gym. But the way that Ready to Mingle works, and one of my favorite things about it, is that you're in complete control. So there are times where I'm going to the gym and I do not want to be approached, right? I'm letting go of my day, doing my thing. And then there's other times where I would love it if someone would come up and say hi. And sometimes I'm like, why isn't anyone coming up and saying hi? So when the ready light's on, it lets others know that they have permission to approach. And when it's off, they don't. So it brings clarity and consent back to real life connection, whether you're at the gym or like any other setting. And I often hear from my guy friends too. It was kind of like things change post COVID. And I think things change post Me Too as well.
Hmm.
So they're feeling, even less comfortable approaching women. And I think if you have, like, one bad experience at the gym, it's embarrassing and you don't want it to happen again, and so then you stop approaching. But this way, if the ready light is on, you have permission to approach, and so you can kind of go up with confidence, and at worst, you make a friend, at best, maybe you meet somebody special.
Right. And so when you create the app, is it similar to other dating apps where you'll input what you're looking for, your information? How does it work as far as the profile goes?
A little bit. So the profile setup is much more lightweight. So you download the app. Because we're having people meet in person, obviously there are safety measures in place. So you have to be verified through a service called Persona. And once you get through verification, you upload a couple of photos. It's photo light. So basically just a headshot and a body shot. I have heard people say, like, well, I don't have a full body shot, it doesn't have to be like a professional shoot. It's just to try to show, at a glimpse who you are. And then you enter basic profile information. So it's like, 150 character snapshot, some basic questions about interests. And from there, the idea is just to pique interest, but really the focus is on meeting people in everyday life. I think that most dating apps have kind of conditioned us to over filter. So we're
Mhm.
spending so much time deciding if we should meet people instead of just meeting them. So I wanted to really pull back on filtering and just giving people a chance again and make it low risk, like you're already going to the grocery store or the gym. You don't have to put so much pressure on it, right? Just get back to saying hi and meeting people in everyday context and then see what happens.
And I like this too because I feel like it's a nice integration into meeting people in real life again, where it puts the connection between the virtual world and the I'll say the back in the day when people had to approach each other,
Yeah,
right? So there's a nice little bridge, and I think we need to get back to that because right now when you see somebody's profile, you're just kind of like, "Okay, I don't how many times have I done this?" Whereas if you have this light on and you go to the grocery store and you see maybe somebody else has that light on, and then you can look, and if that person piques your interest, why not go say hi? And
exactly.
and like you said, at worst, you have a nice interaction with somebody. It doesn't necessarily have to lead to something, but either way, I think that a lot of us are just craving human connection at this point, like genuine human connection.
Definitely. One of the challenges I have with the app actually is that I think we have become so passive, right? We go home and we sit and we swipe. And
Yeah,
so when we're at the grocery store or the gym, we're looking at our phones or, we're not open. We're not like creating
yeah.
those opportunities. And so part of the behavior that, I'm trying to kind of condition or get back to is, when you're headed to these places, turn on your light, see who's available nearby to meet, and then, you kind of put your phone down and say hi. So it's using technology to create opportunities or moments of serendipity in everyday life, but then the focus is really on connecting in person again. And, I think that I've been doing that I've been pushing myself to do that as well, right? I'm asking other
Mhm.
people to do it through the app. So I've been doing that myself and it's been amazing. Like people that I have met that, I otherwise would not have has been really special.
And does it alert you if you don't have the app open? Because I wonder too, so say you turn it on and you get to the store and then you forget that you had it on because it's new to you. Is there a notification or anything that comes up that somebody around you may have their light on or anything like that?
So there are a couple notifications currently in place and I will add more as there are more users on the platform. But
Mhm,
right now I have certain locations specifically in North County that I've partnered with.
mhm,
Working on a partnership with, like, for example, Lofty Coffee. So
mhm.
they are featured as a ready zone within the app. So when you are entering an area near a Lofty Coffee, you'll get served a notification that says, "Hey, you're approaching Lofty. Turn on your ready light when you get there." So it kind of reminds people, like, "Oh, okay, I'm out. I should turn it on." And then there is an events tab in the app. So Ready to Mingle is hosting about 2 events a month. And then we're also featuring other local events and events more broadly in San Diego. So when you RSVP to an event in the app, it will prompt you like ahead of the event to remember to turn your light on when you're going there to connect with others. So a couple of things in place already, but continue to kind of explore and see what's working for people.
Amazing, and yes, all these places are specific to San Diego right now, so right,
Yes.
okay, and
Yeah, so far just San Diego, specifically North County, and then I'll kind of branch from there. But because it's proximity based,
mhm.
I've got to focus on just kind of one area at a time and
Yeah,
make sure people are seeing each other consistently on there and go from there.
got it. So the app right now currently is only available specifically for San Diego users. Is that
Yep.
okay, got it. Well, that's amazing though. It's such a great thing, and I think that to start at a place that is so diverse and so it's funny because I would argue and say that San Diego is as good as it gets when it comes to the pool of people as far there's so many from a broad range, right? And
Definitely.
big place, and we have that advantage, and you would think that that would mean that our dating people were more pleased with the dating pool, but I say that there is not one place on earth where I've ever heard people say, "Oh, the dating pool here is great." And I don't know if
It's
you can
true.
say that. I've never heard it from anywhere. That's my experience. I don't know if you've heard otherwise.
No, it's the same, and it's a challenge wherever it's a challenge wherever you go, but I would
Yeah.
agree with you that San Diego kind of has everything, and it's a great people are very, like, health conscious here. It's a lot of outdoors, out and about, like, people are very active, so there's lots of opportunity, and I think the people that for me that, I focus on most with the app are a little bit more mature daters.
Mhm.
I think, you know, really anyone, but I think when you're younger, there's more opportunities just naturally to meet. And
Right.
as you get older, we start to drift a bit and, our lives get a little bit more complicated. And it kind of becomes even harder to know who's okay to be approached or not, right? By
Mhm.
30, 40, 50, um, you've experienced a lot more life. And so I think having this signal and this sort of, um, consent to approach becomes even more beneficial.
Mhm.
And there's also, a whole pool of people who have never been on a dating app. And there's a lot of, like, 60 and up people who are lonely and just looking for connection as well in San Diego. And I think that, that's another group of people that I would love to have on the app. It's simple to use, and I hope that it will be a little bit more of a comfortable experience, and they have a little bit more experience approaching people in everyday life, so I think we have something to learn from that. And
Yeah,
I think it's a great community to launch something like this.
definitely. And in funny timing, I continue to preach how important it is. My theory is that we are struggling to find love in this day and age because we're seeking it so badly. Like people are just
Yeah,
it's almost as if there's this desperation, and even if you don't mean to, and I say this from myself, I'm not speaking it from a perspective of look at everyone else's. I've been
sure.
guilty of that too, where you fall into this mentality and you fall into this routine and you're like, "Why am I not meeting anybody?" But we do the same things day in and day out, right? I go to the same workplace, I go to the same gym, I go to the
Yeah,
same grocery stores around the same time, and as like you said, I'm not looking and scanning, and even when you do go out with that intention, oftentimes you're not finding somebody because what do they say? The more you look, the less you find. So this is kind of a more organic way. Like you're
uh,
just living your life. You have this app, it alerts you, and then you decide whether you want to approach the person or vice versa, right?
absolutely. And I experience that as well, right? I tend to put a lot of pressure on myself just in
Mhm.
general. And and I think we're trying to maximize our time, right? We're all busy.
Right.
And so it puts even more pressure on the situation to be like, well, I have to maximize my time,
Yeah.
and I just don't think that the best things come about that way when we put that kind of pressure on ourselves.
Mhm.
Um, I was talking to somebody else about, you know, there's a lot of singles focused events, right? And that kind of naturally puts pressure on us as well. Like you feel
Yeah.
like, oh, I have to go there and meet somebody. And if I don't, it's a failure. And so, one of the things that I love about Ready to Mingle and also about the events that we've had so far is that people are very open to any kind of connection, And so,
Mhm.
if you come and you don't, make a romantic relationship, but maybe you met a new friend or, a business opportunity, like people who came to the soft launch, they found somebody to go to, like, a Padres game with them. There were a couple dates that happened,
Yeah.
but just that feeling of, like, take the pressure off and just meet again, Like, that's I think that's a much healthier way to go about it,
Yeah.
um, and it's, like, more fair to us, right? Like, we're
Right.
trying and, um yeah.
Yeah, there's almost this undue pressure with dating apps too when you go on a date because say you hit it off with a person and then you're like, okay, so where do we go from here? And I feel like that always creates some sort of tension, right? In one app, it,
Yeah.
in one person more than the other, and all of a sudden it's not fun and it becomes very outcome based, as you were saying. And again, I think that
Totally.
it's the genuine human connection is what I wanna go back to and encourage people, and also, this helps people overcome the fear of rejection because we're all going to be rejected, and I know I said that in the beginning, but all of us have experienced rejection in one way, shape, or form, and I think that
Totally.
that's part of human nature, that's what strengthens us as people. Do we wanna get rejected? No, but it happens. So,
Totally. And it helps you get closer to what it is that you're looking for, you know?
yeah.
But I think also that's sort of that was also another goal with going very light on the filters in the app. I think one of the other issues that we have with current dating apps is that we spend all this time deciding if we should meet the person, right? And then when
Mhm.
we get there, so much of the questions and the getting to know has already been answered. So you get there
Yeah.
and it feels like a job interview
Yeah.
or like a weird,
Yeah.
where it's like I don't even like to go and look at somebody's Instagram necessarily before I go out with them 'cause I wanna hear their story myself, I want that opportunity for, like, the natural conversation to evolve, and so, I tried to leave room for that in the app to actually discover people in person and, not over filter.
Yeah. Where you have to start the question with, "Tell me something I wouldn't know on your dating app."
Right?
Yeah, that makes total sense. And
Yeah.
I also want to go back to one of the and I'm bringing up a lot of the things that I hear people, I wanna say, complain about or voice their opinions on with dating apps, and one of the things that I hear, and it's funny because men specifically have started to vent to me about women and dating, which has been good because it allows me to see things from a different perspective because I was always looking at it from a woman's perspective who dates men.
Yeah, of
And
course.
yeah, and so this has been very eye-opening as I share more content specifically around love and finding love and self-love, all of that, and this falls in that under that umbrella. But I hear a lot of men saying that women just want validation, so they fear that they will just have this as another means of getting validation. And I want to get your thoughts on that too, because I think with anything you're going to run into that, right? Where people are not approaching things in a way that we would deem, I don't want to say authentic, but that's essential. I don't want people to get scared away by that. So I want to hear your thoughts on that too, because I have plenty of thoughts that I voice, but it's nice to hear it from somebody else.
Yeah. So, I mean, I like that you're saying that they think that women only wanna be on dating apps and get swiped on and go on dates because it makes them feel like there's a sense of validation there.
Right, like, that all they're looking for is validation, and they don't really want anything, and that's, one of the things that I hear often from multiple men, so,
Yeah. I
yeah.
think that I mean, I like to think that most people are on there because their intention ultimately is to find something, right? To
Right.
find companionship, whatever that looks like. Um, I think that, you know, both men and women, like, we like to feel appreciated. We like to feel, um, that somebody's interested in us. I haven't met anybody or, I don't have any friends who are using it just for additional validation.
Yeah.
I think that dating apps have gamified dating, um, to the point where, swipes it's almost like a little bit of a I don't know, not like an addiction, but I think that swipes have become sort of the way of, whereas like it feels much better, I think, to like feel real chemistry with somebody in person.
Mhm.
So, I don't know people who are using it just for validation, but if that's how it's coming across, I feel like that is more of something that like has become normalized through dating apps as opposed to like more of like a broken system, not like a person who is trying to approach it, for that reason.
Right, I think you're right, and I think that this will help make an impact in changing that. Again, because we have people who are craving genuine connection, ultimately, and of course,
Yeah.
you'll always, I think, in any way, shape, or form, you'll find people that maybe don't honor it in the way that it's intended, but that's not on an individual level. I think when you have that connection, that human connection, that in-person connection, it helps reduce that
I think
immensely.
so too. And with Ready to Mingle, I really wanted to create like an intentional community.
Mhm.
So people, before they even get on the app, they'll sign a commitment to kind of uphold those. Of course, people can, you may have some like bad actors in the mix, but to me, everybody turning on their ready light is somebody who's putting themselves out there. And I want to make sure that this is being treated with respect.
Yeah.
And that it's a community of people who are like supporting each other and there for the
Yeah.
right reasons. And yeah, I think I also feel like with the validation piece, I think there's not enough time in the day for anybody to just go out on,
Right.
like I think we're all looking for something and hoping to find it, however we can.
Yeah, and it's funny because I always like to tie this into the general theme of self-love too, but I honestly think that at some point, if you are pouring into yourself and you are self-focused, you'll naturally attract people who are on that same wavelength and be able to use your discernment to sense when people are not. S
Definitely.
and again, when you're meeting somebody in person, that gives you that opportunity to really get that sense because it's harder than when you're holding a conversation on whatever app that you're using and it's just you're DMing each other back and forth and you
Yeah.
don't really know where it's gonna go. So here you have that in-person element, you're able to sense what that person is looking for and opt in or out
Yeah.
to go further.
Exactly. And I think you already have some, you mentioned like self love and somebody who's already. So I think the other benefit of the app is that you're meeting people in the places that you already go. So if, for example, I'm into nutrition and health, like maybe I shop at a grocery store that sort of, lends to that. And then if I like to do yoga, or play tennis, like you're meeting people in contexts where there's already something in common and you have like a good foundation to go off of or something that makes a conversation start, more natural than on an
Yeah.
app where it feels very forced. And I say to people too, like I'm not built for like the current dating. I can't have a conversation with 10 different people
Yeah.
and, like, have it feel genuine, and I just don't have enough time in the day, right? I
Yeah.
gotta um, there's too much, so I think that this way, it's like, well, I'm already gonna be there, why not meet somebody while I'm there?
Yeah. Definitely, and I like that you said that we don't have time, and it's true, and, we don't wanna make it something where we're trying to just, I don't know, just check something off the list is what I'm trying to say, but
Yeah,
we wanna make sure that we're investing our time in ways and we're already doing these things, and we're doing things that we enjoy, and I always think that or I always say that that's how you meet people is by doing the things that bring you joy or doing the more routine things, but it's places that you would go and people that shop at similar places to
right.
you. And
It's
that's
like a
important
good
too. We undermine the boring. Like somebody that
totally. Like,
somebody
but
that
that's how
loves
we
Trader
used to
Joe.
meet people,
Yeah,
And
exactly.
yeah, I just think like getting back to basics a little bit is really important. I think some of the date I've been recruited into a couple of like matchmaking situations and I'm on a dating app that like will match me in with people in like Switzerland or and
Oh,
you're like
fun.
for a day you're like that sounds fun, that sounds romantic, but then you're like, but is it practical? Like is that really gonna, and about the time in the day, I think there's also like a misunderstanding or kind of a miscommunication on both sides with that too. Like I actually think both sides are putting in a lot of time and effort, like in a traditional relation, I think like men are planning dates and maybe they're paying for dates and a lot of women like we're spending time getting ready and like there's a lot that goes into it for everybody who goes out. And so I think that it's like John Mayer called it date 0. It's that moment when you decide if you even wanna go on a date with a person, and I think,
Yeah.
like, those are the kind of moments that you need to then say, "Okay, yeah, like, there's some chemistry here, now we're gonna invest the time and energy to go on a date or, and get to know the person better." But I think, like, more of those moments in the places that we already go is what we need.
Exactly. Again, it's those unexciting places that are really where like this can happen. And I always think like Trader Joe's is my spot. I love Trader Joe's. If I'd meet someone there, it'd be a dream. Is that
Yeah.
everyone's love story? No, but I love it. And if I found somebody that shopped there and was familiar, it's those small things. And I do think too, there's this everyone has this illusion of what love should look like. And we forgot that sometimes it just happens organically. Sometimes it's just in the least expected places.
Yes.
And this
Yes.
brings that more likely because I think it'll slowly start to, or maybe quickly start to have people remember that the magic can happen in the mundane.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that a lot of there are a lot of new dating apps, like, every day I feel like there's a new, dating app. I think a
Yeah.
lot of dating apps are leaning heavily into, there's really amazing things you can do with AI these days, of course. I think a lot of dating apps are leaning into AI and, again, kind of trying to figure out compatibility before people meet.
Mhm.
And I think that, my whole focus is like getting people back to basics, getting people to meet in everyday life. And then I think you can do some really cool things like, for helping people explore compatibility, explore like their own needs and other people's needs better.
Mhm.
Um, but I love the idea of using technology to create opportunities, moments of serendipity in everyday life, but to let those unfold, you know, and before you start bringing more technology into it, right? Make the
Yeah,
process feel more human.
definitely. Because I think also on a soul level, I always talk about spirituality and whatnot, but on a soul level, you can't really put AI equations into the two people who are meant to meet. I don't think that that's how it works. And some of the most compatible people may not be compatible when it comes to whatever metrics they're measuring on, right? They're looking at surface level
Totally.
things, things that are tangible. And sometimes it really is just meeting somebody and having that soul level recognition, but you can't have that if you're looking at somebody based on data.
I absolutely agree. I think we're energetic beings, and I think
Mm.
that chemistry has to be felt. I also think that, I think a lot of people are kind of pulling back and feeling like they don't stand a chance because I think guys in particular, I hear that they feel like they don't have a chance because they don't meet some checklist or ideal. And, the other piece I love about in person is that it gives you a chance to shine, to be felt and not filtered, to show your strengths. So like if you're funny, people have charisma and energy that just can't come through in a dating profile. So I think it's really important that I also believe that, the universe puts people on our path. And I
Mhm.
think we've become very closed off to that. And I think that one of my hopes with the app is that it reminds us to kind of stay open and, see who comes into our day to day.
Yeah, and you're right, I do think the universe will always put people in our paths, but we have to put in some effort. We can't just do the same
Yeah.
thing in much the same way as if you were looking for a job. You can't just expect this job to land on your lap. You would have to put some effort. So it does involve going to places and talking to people and doing the uncomfortable, which, is another thing that I want to encourage people to do. We have to do the uncomfortable to get what we want.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And so what is your I guess your 5-year vision for the app?
Yeah, so we talked about starting in San Diego, so
Mhm,
specifically North County, and then I
mhm,
think San Diego more broadly. Eventually, I would love for this to expand beyond that. And my dream, the grand vision is that one day this becomes as recognizable as like a wedding ring.
mhm.
I hope that you can go to an airport lounge or travel or in any context be able to turn your ready light on and just make it easier to meet people. I think there's so many use cases, like say you're a yoga teacher and you moved, from Chicago to San Diego and you're trying to make friends and maybe build your class following, you can do that with this app. You can see who else is interested in yoga in a mile radius,
Yeah.
and make friends and build a class following. And um I just think that there's so many use cases for this. So I hope that it will become a recognizable social signal for, I am open, I'm interested in connecting, and that's the that's the grand vision.
Yeah, I love that. And then to tie this back into personal experiences, because as I speak to more people, I do think there's this loneliness epidemic where people are deeply desiring not even just romantic partners, but friends, and they don't feel fulfilled in their friendships. And they are mostly friends with people out of comfort because they've known them. But there's I sense it and it saddens me, but I also know that there's hope. So I want to use that to, I'm like, okay, this is obviously a problem, but it's not something that is not solvable. Is there a quick fix? No, but rarely is there ever a quick fix for a problem that is so big. So I want to get your take on that as well, and how the app can help people with
Yeah.
just encouraging them on a even on a small scale, even if they're not in San Diego, maybe they could just, use this, whether it's body cues or whatever, but I just want to land the bigger message because I do think this is a huge problem and this can help fix that on, even if it starts on a smaller scale. Who knows what'll happen in 5 years, right?
Totally. Yeah, I've got, so my background is in healthcare.
Mhm,
And so I think that the loneliness epidemic is one of the greatest challenges today.
mhm.
The US Surgeon General declared it a major public health concern comparable to smoking 15 cigarettes a day.
Oh,
So
wow.
it's crazy, right? And we
Yeah,
know that human connection isn't just a nice to have, it is critical for physical, mental, emotional health, longevity. So I'm very passionate about trying to help, solve this problem in any way that I can. I think that through the app, of course, is one way. Just get back to going to places, turn your light on, and I think you can set goals for yourself. Like, say hi to one new person, even starting with one new person a week,
mhm,
right? Like, if there's somebody, I also think, we don't tell people, like, you might walk into a gym and you like somebody's outfit, or you walk into, tell people, right? Like, I think that people like to hear that kind of stuff. Like, it's okay to just just try to connect with people again. And I think we're at a bit of a dangerous precipice. I think that, society sometimes feels very divisive right now and a little
mhm.
bit disconnected. And I think that we have to kind of get back to seeing each other as human, right? Like, we may have different views on something, but maybe we both love dogs or we both love yoga, and we can connect on that. And so I think the more that we can kind of say hi to each other, open communication, and just get back to, feeling like we're in this together, I think the
Yeah.
better off we'll be.
Yeah, I love this. I think that it can be used in so many places beyond North County, San Diego. So we'll keep
Yes.
spreading the word, as you said. And I didn't know that about the how it's comparable to the cigarette smoking and how
Yeah.
detrimental it is to our health. I only hear it from people again as I share more and people nationwide, and I'm sure it's worldwide, not just nationwide. It's just the people that I speak to are
Yeah.
typically.
They say some of the worst statistics are actually among the younger generation.
Mm,
And I was telling somebody else I met somebody walking the trail with my dog the other day. He's
mhm,
actually an older gentleman who recently lost his mother, and he's going through an incredibly difficult time. And we got to talking. I'm from the Midwest, so I tend to talk to people anyways. So we got to talking, and, he let me know, he was like, you probably didn't design the app for this, but like, I would love to just be able to go to a cafe and talk to somebody. He's like,
yeah,
just to like know that I have somebody to kind of like share my feelings with. And so I think
yeah.
it's like young people, it's older people, you know, so I think it's very needed, and yeah, I certainly hope it will help solve a little bit of that problem.
Yeah, we gotta get back to that in-person connection. We love
Yeah.
technology, but it can never replace genuine human connection. There's just no
No.
way.
But I do think, my with the app, like, I think it can help remove some of the barriers that we've
Mhm.
created around it.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
I think that that's like, if anything, I think that's what fundamentally I hope it will do.
Yeah, yeah. It seems like we're on the right track now. We'll get the word spread.
Thank
Well,
you.
thank you so much. I'm going to link the app, the way to download the app to the show notes here, and we'll also link where people can find you, and, of course, if you're listening, if you could spread the word on the app, that would be amazing. We want it to reach the people who are craving connection, whether it's romantic connection, friendship. We can all attest to the fact that it is a struggle these days, but we can make it better collectively, and it starts at an individual level. So thank you, Gia, for doing your part and for being here and spreading the word, and I'm so excited to see where the app goes. I know it's gonna be great.
Thank you so much. I
Yeah,
appreciate the support, and it was wonderful to be here with you.
yeah, of course. All right, everyone, thank you for listening, and I will see you next Thursday.